Today's video is about German pronouns, and the reason why German pronouns are pretty important for us to have a good handle on. German is more of a complex language than English is, and in order for us to actually use verbs properly in sentences, we need to be able to take the subject of any given sentence, convert it or condense it down to a pronoun so that we can know which pattern to follow when conjugating that verb for the sentence. Here's the verb to play in English. We say, I play, you play, he plays, she plays, it plays, we play, they play. And so you can see that we just use the word play through the whole thing, with the exception of the he, she, and it forms. For those forms, we have to add an S. Woohoo! I do English real good. No problem. Now, in German, we have a couple more pronouns to throw in there, and you'll see that the verb gets morphed a bit more. First of all, we start with the infinitive spielen. Spielen means to play in German. The stem of this verb, the meaty part of this verb, is the part spiel. Spiel is the part that is the verb. Here's how I conjugate this very weak, very simple, regular verb, spielen, in German, which means to play. Ich spiele, du spielst, spielt, sie spielt, spielt, wir spielen, ihr spielt, sie spielen, sie spielen. Now this is one of the most simple verbs you can have, and you can see, even at the simple form, it's still very complex as opposed to the English, which is, I'm going to add an S on the he, she, and it form. So that's why getting a handle on our pronouns is so important. As you go through all your German verbs, whether they're simply little weak verbs like this one, or whether they're strong verbs, you need to know which pronoun to start with in order to access the conjugation necessary to make that verb fit in your sentence. So the overall goal is that we eventually be able to get to the point where we can look at any subject in any sentence and boil it down to a single pronoun that we can find on our little pronoun chart that will show us the correct pattern of verb conjugation. But today we're just going to look at pronouns in general to understand what's going on when we see the pronouns. There are three features to a pronoun. The first feature of a pronoun is it tells us how a subject is being spoken about. For example, if the sentence has a person talking about him or herself, I woke up in the morning, I drank a ton of coffee, that's called first person. If the sentence has a person speaking directly to another person, saying things like, you shouldn't do that, or you need to put gas in the car today, well, that's called second person. And if the sentence is merely an observation of a person, a place, a thing, or idea that's happening over there, that's called third person, because we're not actually directly speaking to that thing, we're just talking about that thing, which is over there, kind of like we're watching that thing on television. So we have first person, second person, and third person points of view. The second feature of a pronoun is it lets us know if the subject is singular or plural. There are singular pronouns in each of the person types, and there are plural pronouns in each of the person types. Here are the singular forms: I, you, he, she, and it. I, you, he, she, and it. Here are the plurals: we, you guys, they. We, you guys, they. In German, it's the same thing. We have ich, du, sie, and es. We have ich, du, sie, and es. And those are in the singular. Here are the plural forms in German: wir, ihr, sie. Wir, ihr, sie. Finally, the third feature of a pronoun is, in the third person singular, the gender of the subject is revealed. In English, it's no big deal. If it's a boy, we say he. If it's a girl, we say she. And if it's an object, we say it. In German, it's a little more complicated. Typically, if the subject is a male, we'll say meaning he. If the subject is a female, we'll say sie, meaning she. And if the subject is an object, we'll say es, meaning it. However, as we saw in the first video, every object in German has a gender. Every object is masculine, feminine, or neuter. Taking that a step further, we had der Stuhl for chair. Well, that should be replaced with the pronoun which is the masculine version of it, which we also know means he. And our door, die Tür, should be replaced with sie. That's the feminine form of it. And das Fenster, which is neuter, gets to use the neuter form of it, es, that we are very comfortable with. I told you that the whole purpose of knowing our pronouns and having a good handle on them was so that we could take subjects of sentences and squash them down into single word pronouns that could be used to access the reference chart to know how to conjugate a verb for that particular sentence. So here's the thing. I'm going to give you some practice sentences in English. We'll squash them down to one single English pronoun, and then at that point we'll convert it to German. First sentence. Holger doesn't like tennis. Holger doesn't like tennis. Well, we would take Holger, he is the subject of our sentence, and convert him to the pronoun he. He doesn't like tennis. In German, that pronoun would be Next sentence, Holger and Sabina are friends. Now, we might be tempted to say, oh, well, Holger's he and Sabina is she. And we would be right, except I said we have to condense it down to a single pronoun. So he and she squeezes all the way down to they. So when I'm conjugating for Holger and Sabina, I have to conjugate it for the plural form of the verb because Holger and Sabina are they. So they are friends. In German, the word for they is sie. Next one, you guys should study your vocabulary. In this case, there's nothing to squeeze down. You guys is a plural pronoun in German, it's ihr. Next one, I need new shoes. I is my pronoun. In German, that is ich. So my mom and I went shopping. Bum, 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 bum. Now, when I see the word I might think, oh, if I see ich, I'm going to make the verb fit to the pronoun ich. But I said we have to squeeze it down to a single pronoun, so my mom and I squeezes down to we. We went shopping. So in German, that's the word wir. So I'll conjugate for wir. That's tricky. Okay, 2 more issues to address for the day and then we are done. The first thing is the word for you. I'm sure you noticed so far that we've had 2 forms of you in German. We've had du and ihr. Du is the form that I would use when I'm talking to a single friend or relative. Not someone who's not in a relationship, that's not what I mean, but somebody who is one person. So if I want to talk to my mom, I say du. If I'm talking to my buddy, I call him or her du. Now, if you're talking to a group of people, whether it's a group of relatives or maybe it's your friends at the lunch table who have eaten your fries when you just got up to get a napkin, that is called ihr, I-H-R. That's the plural form of you when the people are supposedly your friends, even though they stole your fries. I like to think of this in English as you guys. Now, the last one is one that you already know, actually. I'm sure you've all heard the question, sprechen Sie Deutsch? And you know to say, nein, 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 nein. This form of you, Sie, with a capital S, is the easiest to use. And it's the one that you're supposed to use when you don't know who you're talking to, you haven't met the person, or you're in a formal situation. The nice thing about this is Sie can refer to a single individual that you're talking to, or it can refer to an entire group. So Sie can be singular or plural. The other super nice thing about the pronoun Sie is when you go to use it in a sentence, you use the infinitive form of the verb 99% of the time. So you don't have to stress about, do I have my verb conjugated properly? You just use the verb that you look up in the dictionary. So you say, spielen Sie Tennis? Do you play tennis? Singen Sie ein Lied? Do you like to sing a song? So it's no big deal. There are 3 forms of you. Du, ihr, and sie. Du is singular, ihr is plural, and sie can be either singular or plural, but it's formal. Finally, the last little smeeny frustration that we need to address is the word sie itself. Sie. Sie, and sie. You might be saying to yourself, really? Are there not enough letters in the alphabet? They couldn't come up with another combination of letters to give us 3 different words for these 3 pronouns? No. Sie can mean she, sie can mean they, or sie can mean you. And that you can be singular or plural. You might say to yourself, well, I give up. What am I supposed to do with these? It's really simple. I'm telling you, don't panic. Because when you're actually having a conversation and you're actually immersed in a situation, you're not going to have to freak out about which Z am I using right now or which Z are they using, because you're involved. And when you're involved, you have context to help you decipher the meaning of the word Z. So don't panic. You're always doing that. So that's it. Let's take one last look at our pronouns. We'll look at the first person, second person, third person, and then formal form of you. Here we go. First person pronouns. Ich, wir. Second person pronouns. Du, ihr. Third person pronouns. Er, sie, es, sie. And finally, the formal form of you is sie. That's it. Those are your pronouns. What is my cat doing? Her name is Miaut. It's spelled the German way, M-I-A-U-T. It means meows. She doesn't know how to spell it yet. We've been working on it. She is what we call, in my family, luscious. I love you. Ich liebe dich, Kitty. That's my baby. Auf Wiedersehen. Mach's gut.